If you were a Sega Genesis or Mega Drive kid, chances are you've played a Disney game. There were a number of titles based on their properties, some of which were developed in-house by Sega themselves. I've mentioned on my channel numerous times being caught off guard completely with the quality of 1990's Castle of Illusion starring Mickey Mouse. I admit at first hearing of it I was turned off by the fact it starred what I considered a character for little kids. I didn't care about Mickey and Minnie, and I certainly didn't want to play a game based on them. But when you have a good friend telling you how incredible the graphics are, how great it plays, and that you need to give it a try, you have to at least play it once. I did, and boy was I happy I didn't miss it. It was so much better than I ever would have believed. It also was one of the graphical standouts for the platform early in its life, an impressive showcase to be a mere 4 megabits of ROM. I made sure not to make the same mistake again, so when Quackshot showed up in 1991, I was there to see how it turned out. And once again, Sega hit it out the park, because Donald's adventure was just as well done. On top of playing quite nicely, it was another great looking game visually. 1992 saw yet another Sega-made Disney adventure show up for the Genesis under the title World of Illusion, starring Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck. In this episode, we are going to be taking a look at it, see if it lives up to the other Sega-made Disney releases, and find out if it's worth playing today. Our story starts out with Mickey and Donald practicing for their big magical act when they discover a mysterious box. Donald, in a moment of excitement, hops into the box and disappears. Mickey, unwilling to leave his friend behind, goes in after him. As the two fall into Pete's magical world, he mocks them with laughter, telling them the only way out is through him, and the journey begins. The gameplay of World of Illusion is very similar to the Sega-produced Disney games before it. They are action platformers through and through, so you will get a full helping of pit deaths, tons of enemies to battle, and of course big bad bosses that block your progress. Your controls are simple but effective. Mickey and Donald both have attacks using their magical capes. Hit the enemy with the magical dust and it will stun them momentarily, while direct contact with the cape will damage them and turn them into non-threatening items like flowers. They also have a dash to get through areas quickly. While this tends to be optional for most of the trip, there are areas that require its use. There is also a smattering of useful actions like crawling, climbing, and riding various items. The options menu gives you the ability to move around the buttons if you so desire. The biggest differences you'll find over the previous entries is the heavy focus on 2 players, both in the form of co-op multiplayer and being able to choose either Mickey or Donald as your playable character. When you have another player with you, the stage design turns into a fully cooperative experience. You need to work together to get through even the simplest of tasks, and the stages change based on that. Whether it's helping each other over obstacles, operating various types of vehicles, or facing the enemy, your life is literally in the hands of your partner. That includes reviving your friend should he fall in battle. When going at it alone, you still get to choose either of our heroes, and each stage is designed so that their paths split and each faces their own challenges. No matter how you choose to play, you will come across items in the game world that can really help you out. Candy will replenish one of your health points. Cake will give you back an entire life bar. Collect enough cards and you'll get an extra 1-up, or collect a top hat and get the 1-up immediately. Silver cards make you invincible, and fireworks destroy all enemies on the screen. The bags with the question marks are just that, a hidden item that is revealed once it's collected. As expected, many of these items are off the beaten path and you will need to explore a bit for the best of them. Should you succumb to the nefarious World of Illusion and run out of tries, you can choose to continue, or you can get a password for that current level. Disney games always had some pretty visuals on the Genesis, and World of Illusion is no different. This 8 megabit cartridge is 5 stages of great backgrounds, solid animation, and an art style that is both faithful to the original games while still feeling fresh and new. The Enchanted Forest has huge trees and flowers for you to navigate, as well as spider-infested caves. Among the clouds, you will find yourself controlling a magic carpet, climbing a stormy mountain, or navigating a mighty river. The water stage starts off with you working your way around in a bubble before either traveling an underwater cave or dealing with the surface. The library is a pure throwback to the first Castle of Illusion. Here you will face obstacles like a Christmas-themed area, ride a cork into the stars, or navigate a picture album come to life. There's even a candy-themed area here for you. The final area is a castle that leads to your final confrontation. I'm telling you all this because there's a strong amount of variety here. Altogether, including the different single-player and co-op paths, there are over 25 levels. Compared to Castle of Illusion and Quackshot graphically, it's pretty much in line with expectation. That's on one hand a very good thing because it really does feel like a continuation of those titles with only some slight artistic liberties. On the other hand, after seeing games like Streets of Rage 2 improve so radically over the first, it does make you wonder how much better it could have looked had visuals been a priority. Sega likely balanced the 8 megabit cartridge so that you got the most out of its stages as opposed to a shorter and more graphically intense adventure. It certainly doesn't look bad either way and really does make you wish that Sega had continued its Disney partnership onto the Saturn, because the level of 2D perfection that could have resulted would have been incredible. The music you will find in World of Illusion is much like the previous games, in that it's not something you will necessarily listen to outside the game, but it does fit the presentation nicely. I was not a fan of the sound effects, however. Some of them are off-putting, even grating, and not something I appreciated very much. I have some samples of the music, so you can judge for yourselves. There's not much to critique about World of Illusion beyond the previously mentioned sound effects and an overall lack of difficulty. This one isn't very challenging and most platforming vets will easily defeat it in an hour or less. But pretty much every other area is hands down a grade A experience. It looks and sounds good. The gameplay is tight and responsive. The stage design is memorable. There's lots of variety, there's puzzle elements, and the co-op edition really does add an extra reason to find a partner and see it through. The fundamental change of attacking with magic instead of jumping on your enemy is also a pretty big deal. It moves Sega's Disney games away from the pure Mario blueprint of Castle of Illusion and sets it on its own path. It was a good move instead of retreading the same ground so closely to the original. World of Illusion was an evolutionary step that added a ton more to an already fun and enjoyable set of games. It's true that being released in late 1992 and early 1993, it had a shed load more competition than either Castle or Quackshot, especially when it comes to visuals, but Sega met that head on by adding multiple paths for both heroes and 2-player support. In a way, it's like they took the best from Castle and Quackshot and developed this game around those, making sure no area was left untouched. If you've never played this before, you are in for one very fine treat. Not only do you get to play through with 2 different characters, but you also have co-op to look forward to. I can't stress that enough. The different pathways elevate this from a straightforward jaunt across a few pretty stages to something much deeper and more interesting. If the previous Disney efforts from Sega did not impress you, this likely won't do much to change that. But I confidently say that if you enjoyed Castle and Quackshot, this should be another one you'll want to play. World of Illusion was absolutely loved by the gaming magazines of the day. I went back through dozens of publications across many regions and didn't see anything close to a single bad review. Even the ones that leveled some criticism towards it still heaped praise onto it in most other areas. The magazines I personally had access to rated it so high even I was a bit surprised. GameFan called it a classic and GamePro was equally behind it. The consensus was unanimous. While this would be the final fully Sega-developed Disney game on the Genesis, we did get a number of others for the Master System and Game Gear. They would carry on the great tradition of these games with some pretty incredible entries themselves. The Sega employees that worked on those games and World of Illusion here would go on to help produce incredible releases like Sonic 3, Knights, Sega Rally, and countless others. When Sega's Japanese teams were on point, you knew you could expect a winner. The next few times Mickey showed up on the Genesis, it was by different developers, and while those games had a certain charm and appeal all their own, I found myself missing the Sega magic responsible for efforts like this one. Finally, for you physical media lovers out there, World of Illusion also happens to be quite collectible even in today's ridiculous environment. Loose, it tends to go around $20 and complete about twice that. That's a steal for this gem, and I can't recommend it enough. I'm Sega Lord X, thank you guys for watching, and I will catch you next time.